There was welcome news for homeowners today, with the Reserve Bank cutting the cash rate by 25 basis points. But the story behind the fall reflects fears that the Australian economy could slow as a result of turmoil in Europe. 15 European nations are now under a credit watch, including France and Germany. Both countries are demanding big changes to the way politics and economics are done in the region, amid concerns that this week's European Union summit represents the last hope of preventing a complete collapse. Here's Europe correspondent Emma Alberici.
It was meant to solve so many of the problems plaguing Europe. The euro would replace all other notes and coins in the region, an easy way to trade, a leg up for smaller economies. The sceptics argued that you couldn't have one currency managed by 17 governments. Now the Eurozone's biggest countries, France and Germany, agree.
What do we want? We want, in essence, that the malfunctioning that led to the situation of the Eurozone today can never happen again.
We are absolutely determined to do everything to keep the euro as a stable currency and as an important contributor to European stability.
It's been 4 years since the treaty was signed in Lisbon, bringing the 27 members of the European Union closer together. Now France and Germany want a change in that treaty to create further integration. A kind of fiscal union with strict budget limits and deficits to be kept below 3% of GDP. Brussels would be given the power to punish countries that spend too much money and the right to broaden budgetary surveillance over member states.
This surveillance is actually the most important ingredient of a monetary union. In fact, in many respects, if countries are prepared to have one common monetary policy, they should be happy or should be willing, at the very least, to share numbers, to have numbers, figures which can be comparable, and so they could really monitor the building up of problems.
Italy became the latest to open its books to its European counterparts and agree to tough measures that the country's welfare minister clearly found difficult to announce. Managing the 17 countries that share the euro has proven difficult, with competing interests in economies like Germany on the one hand, worth $3 trillion, and the tiny island state of Malta on the other, with an economy of just 10 billion.
It's not just the size of their economies that sets member states apart from each other. They're also different on so many levels. Their people speak different languages, operate within different tax and welfare systems. Some are in highly developed countries, while others are still relatively poor. But the one thing they all do have in common is a fierce objection to any external individual, body or country telling them how to run their affairs.
Paola Subacchi is the research director in international economics at think tank Chatham House in London. She studied for her economics doctorate in Milan under the guidance of new Italian Prime Minister Mario Monti.
Silvio Berlusconi was very against this idea of giving any more powers to Brussels. How does Mario Monti feel about that?
Well, Mario Monti is, I would say, an internationalist, like a lot of, is a liberal economist, somebody who thinks it's important to have a good and healthy market economies, but with rules, so not a free market with unregulated market. And it's very important for Italy to be part of the European Union. So, you know, it's a totally different position from that of Silvio Berlusconi.
If there is going to be some kind of fiscal union in the Eurozone, then assumedly someone needs to be leading that charge. And yet at the moment there are so many dominant players. Is it going to be Angela Merkel of Germany or Nicolas Sarkozy of France, perhaps Mr Barroso, who's currently the head of the European Commission?
It's not that much is who is in charge, but how we can make mechanism and a framework of governance which is effective.
The German and French leaders want all 27 countries of the European Union to agree to the treaty changes at this week's summit, to draw a line under the debt crisis once and for all. But British Prime Minister David Cameron, for one, isn't about to cede any more powers to Brussels without a fight.
When you look at the crisis in the Eurozone, the real need there is for the institutions of the Eurozone to get behind the currency, to convince the markets that they have the firepower to do that. But the second fundamental thing is real competitiveness throughout the Eurozone so the Eurozone works properly. Now, neither of those things actually require treaty change, but I'm very clear if there is treaty change, then I will make sure that we further protect and enhance Britain's interests.
European markets have all rallied on the news that decisive action might finally bring a plan for economic growth in the region. But bookmakers are still offering odds of 3-1 that the euro will no longer exist as a currency by the end of next year.
Emma Elverici reporting.